Good morning. Hey, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. Happy New Year, everybody. We are so glad you're here. Yeah, sure. I'm so excited Conundrums is here. They're just like, it's like eating a bowl of joy, right, the whole time. Let's rise together in body or in spirit and sing, "Come and go with me to that land." Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm from, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm found. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. And it's Reverend Teague's birthday.
Welcome. I'm Reverend Duncan Teague, Senior Minister at Abundant Love Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and I am the Community Minister at Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. Where we are transforming lives through courageous action and soulful connection. I think we got the soulful part down this morning. You are welcomed, and more than that, you're cherished here. It is wonderful to be joined in leading worship by, of course, the fantabulous Don Milton III. And some dear friends, Sonia Tinsley Hooks, somebody I have known since Patrick Hutchison on the piano this morning. He can play anything. Anything. I have tried. And conundrums. This morning, many of you know of her from her work here as the Youth Ministries Coordinator, but to help us with the Chalice lighting, she is also a member of Abundant Love, and she is a minister in training. I would like to welcome Catherine Moore to the dais. At Abundant Love, we sing This Little Light of Mine as the Chalice lighting song. And y'all are gonna sing it this morning. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Oh, one more time, let's do it again. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. If you'll say the chalice lighting words with me as Catherine lights our chalice. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition of seeking. Invite all who yearn for acceptance and ignite our passion for justice and peace.
Good morning. Sankofa. I wonder if you have seen this symbol before. Thought you had. It is a mythical bird known as the Sankofa bird, originally from the Akan tribe in Ghana. It symbolizes the practice of honoring insight and knowledge acquired from the past, the head looking backwards, as a way of understanding the present and creating a strong future, the feet facing forward. The practice of Sankofa recognizes how our ancestral roots inform and ground us and ask us to honor and heed what is lasting and significant from our past. So I'd like to share a story from my past, a story my mother shared with me about what life was like when she was a child. My mother grew up right here in Georgia, in a rural area in what we would call out in the country. She was the youngest of 11 children, and her parents were sharecroppers. For those of you who do not know what I mean by sharecropping, I will explain. Sharecropping is a term for when one person or family farms the land that is owned by another person or family. And then the two people or families share the crops that are produced. Now, because it has the word share in it, which we usually associate with kindness, you could easily think that sharecropping would have been a good thing, but it wasn't. After the South lost the Civil War, slavery was supposed to be over. Black people who had been forced to be slaves were supposed to be free to live and work where they wanted, to own their own land and keep what they earned. But instead of getting to experience this kind of freedom, and instead of being given any help to establish themselves now that they were no longer enslaved, many black people in the South had no choice except to continue farming in the same areas where they had once been enslaved. But now, instead of being slaves, they were sharecroppers. That meant that the land was often owned by the same white families who owned the land during the time of slavery. But now these families took a big part of everything the black sharecropping families grew in exchange for letting them continue to live on the land. Yeah, they were sharing, but the landowning families took such a big share that most of the black farming families remained poor and in debt, rarely making enough money even after all their work to help make life better for their families so that they could have nicer things or even necessary things like access to good education and health care. Now, my mom's dad, my grandfather Maud, was a sharecropping farmer, and with the help of his wife, my grandmother Willie Mae, and their 11 children, all working together, they grew cotton to sell. But they also grew vegetables. They had fruit trees. They raised cows and pigs and chickens. They grew almost all their own food, so that they only had to buy a few things from the store. But each year, no matter how good the crops were, and no matter how much they harvested, after the white landowners came to take their share, it was hard for them to make it through the rest of the year with what was left. Now, my grandpa Maud loved his family and wanted to take good care of them. He did not want them to ever be hungry or cold or not have the things that they needed to grow up happy and healthy. So eventually, he came up with a plan. My mother told me that her family made extra income by making sugarcane syrup that they could secretly sell or trade to their black neighbors who were also sharecroppers. But when my mother told me this story, I was confused. I said, "But Mom, why didn't the white landowners just take the syrup or the sugarcane too?" Her reply, "They didn't know that we grew it." She said, "My daddy also grew corn, and he figured out a way to hide his sugarcane in between the corn so that unless you knew what you were looking for, you wouldn't know it was there. And this is the way we made enough money to get some of the extra things that we needed." When I heard this story, I was shocked by his creativity and impressed by his bravery. What if that had all gone wrong? What if it had been discovered by the wrong people? But most importantly, I was inspired. If my grandpa Maud could be that resourceful and brave under his hard circumstances, what can I perhaps do with so much more? It is in part because he grew some sugarcane in the corn and enabled his family to thrive that I'm here today as his granddaughter with a university education and a house and a family. All his children grew up to have children and houses and pieces of land of their own, no matter how small. Hearing about my granddad's clever farming is just one of the stories from the past that helps me to realize that I am the descendant of creative, strong, courageous, and loving people. People willing to use their inner resources and take great risk to care for their families and to challenge unfair conditions in their lives. My grandpa Maud, Big Daddy, as he was called by his grandchildren, died long before I was born. But his story inspires me every day to show the same strength of spirit and to find my own way to grow some sugarcane along with the corn, to support and protect myself and the people I love. This story is part of who I am. This story is about who I am and where I come from. So where did you come from? Is there a story from your past that informs where you are and who you are now? Let's all keep looking for stories of strength from our families and our friends and our beloved community, so that like the Sankofa bird, we can look to our past for wisdom that we can carry with us as we move into and create a stronger future. And don't forget to plant some sugarcane along with your corn. At this time, I would like to invite the Merkel family to the chancel to lead us in this morning's movement prayer. Please rise in body or spirit and join us. Hi. First, we bow to honor the spirit of life. We lift our arms and embrace the gifts of spirit. We bring these gifts unto ourselves with gratitude and breathe and smile. We share these gifts with the world. We remember to be present. Honor, embrace, gratitude, share, be present. Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite our children third grade and under to exit and join the preschool or their creative workshops this morning. Those are located just right down the hall that way. As they recess, please take this opportunity to greet your neighbor. Just a little.
Ashe, Ashe, Funga, Alafia, Ashe, 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 Ashe. Ashe, Ashe, yeah, Ashe, Ashe. All right, you got that part. This is a call and response song. So when I point to you, it's your Ashe. When I point to you, it might be Funga, okay? But I want us all to do this together, and I want us to get up and let's have some joy here. Come on now. We're gonna have a little fun here. There's no mess up in this. We're just doing it together. And it's going to be peace and love to you, okay? Peace and love to you. Okay, so I'm going to sing it, and then we're going to sing it together. Funga la fia, ashe, ashe. Funga la fia, ashe, ashe. Good. Funga la fia, ashe, ashe. Funga la fia, ashe, ashe. Ashe, ashe. Wave your hands in the air. There you go. There you go. Ashe, ashe. There you go. Ashe, ashe. Ashe, ashe. All right, everybody got the hand gestures? Your hands are out here. This is funga. Cross them over your heart. This is alafia. Wave them in the air. Ashe, ashe. All right, we're gonna bring up the beat a little bit. Move whatever you want, okay? Funga lafia. Ashe, ashe. Funga. There you go. Ashe, ashe. Funga lafia. Ashe, ashe. Funga lafia. Ashe, ashe. Ashe, ashe. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Tell your neighbor. Peace be unto you. Peace be. I can't hear you. A little louder. Peace be unto you. Tell your neighbor. Yeah. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Clap your hands now. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Say it louder now. Peace be unto you. Yeah. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Peace be. Here we go again. Together. Funga la fia. Yeah. Funga la fia. That's what I want to hear. Funga la fia. Funga la fia. Here we go. Ashe, ashe. Ashe, ashe. Ashe, ashe. Yeah, yeah. Ashe, ashe. I need to see those hands in the air on the ashe. Yeah, there, yeah. There we go now. All right. Yeah, you ready? We are conundrums. We welcome you. We are conundrums. We welcome. What we say? Ashe, ashe. Yeah. Ashe, ashe. Ashe, ashe. Woo! unto you. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Tell your neighbor, peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Peace be unto you. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
No, it's me.
Whoa. And now we're gonna meditate. Good breath in and out. Let's take another one of those. Big breath in and out. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing on. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. We are climbing on. If I stumble, will you help me? If I stumble, will you help me? If I stumble, will you help me? We are climbing
Let us put hands on hearts. Feel the heartbeat, connection to life. Breathe in peace. And say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others. And that love can heal the world. At this time, we hear the joys and the sorrows of this congregation. Please send love and condolences to Sven Lundgren. Sven's brother Niels passed away on January 4th, one day after his 85th birthday in Titusville, Florida. Cards and emails are appreciated. Please hold Paula Keinert in your thoughts and prayers. Paula's mother, Elaine Keinert, passed away December 28th, 2 weeks shy of her 91st birthday, after developing a high fever due to COVID. Paula describes Elaine as a beautiful songbird, a thespian, a lyric soprano, an artist, and a strong, independent woman. She will be deeply missed. A memorial service will be announced. Cards and emails are welcome. Information will be available in the realm. I was handed this today. Dick Patterson is home from spending a week in the hospital. He's recovering at home, and please send him positive thoughts. I'm adding to this list my next door neighbor, Tony Williams, who grew up in the house next to us. He's become like family, and his family embraces David and I. He's currently in Emory Hospital. If you'll please hold Tony, his sister Kelly, and his mother Doris, who is also a member of this congregation or has been. Right now, you're invited to say the names of people you're holding in your hearts this morning. Speak the names out loud into this holy space now. May all beings find connection. May all people find comfort. May all of us find ways to be more loving to one another. May all of us find ways to be more loving to one another. Spirit of life, love eternal. We rest in holy gratitude. We surrender to a mystery beyond ourselves, asking forgiveness for our mistakes. Those times we have been selfish or thoughtless. Breathing in and breathing out, we offer grace. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. We honor our earth, supporting and sustaining life. We breathe in, opening our hearts to wonder. For just one moment, feeling a deep connection with all beings. Let us calm our bodies, our minds. We breathe in peace, and then we exhale. We relax into this space that our intentions make sacred. We relax into this space that our collective intentions make sacred. And we enter into the silence.
That form of love we call generosity, by Paul R. Beadle. Once upon a time, most folks used the offering plate to fulfill their pledges of financial support. Nowadays, lots of folks click on their church websites or set up automatic transfers from their checking accounts. Some still write a monthly check, paying their church bill along with all the other bills. But passing the offering plate was never just a practical exercise. It has always been a ritual. Even if your pledge is paid up, it is worthwhile for you to bring even just $1 to drop into the plate as a ritual reminder of that form of love we call generosity. Let it be a reminder that after meeting our obligations to ourselves and our households and the communities to which we belong and are committed, we must still keep our capacity to give. The practice of giving, until it is second nature and first response, helps bring forth the realm of love. In addition, we can also show love through action. One of our young adult members, Dandelion Prinsloo, has brought a business resolution. There she is. Complete divestment from the fossil fuel industry and subsequent reparations to share at the end of service in the social hall. They will be happy to read over it with you and answer any questions at that time. Now, this morning's offering will be given and most gratefully received.
Alyssa, what is that? What is that instrument? Alyssa said that's the kora. I don't play that. Isn't that wonderful? In the tradition I come from, we would say amen. Or today we could even say ashe. Thank you so much. We're going to bless our offering this morning with the words of our blessings from Abundant Love. So you want to look at the screen if you don't know it by heart. I could ask some members of Abundant Love to stand and lead us, but I'll get beat up if I do that. We ready? In gratitude for all that is good, and for this community formed in abundant love, with these and all our gifts, may we bless and change our world. Amen. Now I could just have Lisa come and give us a concert. And Don Milton would run up here and ask me, what am I doing? Wow. We've already had church, y'all. I want to thank my minister, Reverend Taryn Strauss, for being wise enough to take some time off. I have other words for Bryce, whose birthday is today also. And as long as I'm at it, Bob O'Hara, who was a faithful member here, and also Travis Vaughn. You know, subtle people. Unassuming, sweet Capricorns that you can, anyway, that's another sermon. My husband is grabbing his stomach right now. Anyway, I have a project for you. First of all, I'd like for you to read an article that I promise I did not steal the title from. It is called Black to the Future, by Mark Deary, written in 1994. That was just before Patrick and I met. We were very young. Very young. Anyway, I want you to read that article. I did not steal my title from it. This is just how spirit works. Back to the Black future. But I do have another project for you, and it's for you to right now, as we're together, I need for you to go into the future 800 years. The year 2823. What do you see? Now, my husband David wants to know, did we survive as a species? That's his first question. I'll let him preach that one. What do you think will be on this hill in North Druid Hills if we survive as a Unitarian Universalist faith movement? Will we have changed in 800 years? We better. Of course we will. Because that which does not change dies. So in 800 years, the monument that's going to sit here with my statue, never mind. But it will be different. And this morning, I need to ask, who did you see in 800 years here? If we see people there there had better be people of African descent in 2823. Just a few 800 years. Remember that 800 years ago, there may have been visitors to this continent, but they weren't from Europe. In Europe, it was the Middle Ages, 1223, and that's not the Renaissance. No printing press yet. Just gay men scribing. How are my descendants living? Now, David and I don't have children by birth. We have a few that we've chosen, but not my children by genetics, but the black queer ministers of our movement who will be all over the Atlanta area in more than 20 congregations and businesses doing the work of our movement. That's what I'm prophesying. In the black future, will Atlanta be racially subdivided? In 800 years, the Atlanta-Chattanooga megalopolis. Will it be economically divided 800 years from now? Or will we have come to our senses about what it really takes to survive? Will the American empire have failed by then?
Hallelujah.
Uh-oh. We got some radicals in the house. You are committed as a congregation to go into Afrofuturism for the next few weeks, months maybe? Uh-oh. And the article that I gave you as an assignment is Black to the Future by Mark Deary. He is white, but he felt like he needed to write it, and he was approaching it from the angle of, in 1994, which I promise was not that long ago, there weren't enough African American sci-fi writers, nor readers. So he interviewed Samuel Delany, award-winning writer from the 60s. He's biracial and also queer, but also had a long-term relationship with a woman. So some of what the youth are trying to get across to us has always been going on. And there was Samuel, and there was Octavia Butler, and not many more. At least not established, published, and doing well. He also interviewed Trisha Rose, a sociologist, and Greg Tate. I believe he was a reporter, journalist. And I found Samuel Delany while I was doing poetry because in the 90s, he was already lauded for his work and his adventuresome. I do not agree with everything you're going to find out about Samuel Delany, but I do respect him, and I love his science fiction work. But he was basically flying solo as a black queer man for far too long. In the article, it talks about how there must be people of the African diaspora writing science fiction so that we black people can see ourselves depicted in the genre and therefore in the future involved in the techno culture. I'm trying not to have too many asides because we have children who need to meet up with y'all at a particular hour, but it is my birthday. Y'all, the red line that separated folks by race and economics is the same line that can tell you who has good Wi-Fi and who doesn't. That's Afro-present. And if you don't have Wi-Fi now, try to pay your gas bill. If black people are not depicted in the future, which we are now, in many ways, thank God. But if we weren't for so many years, what's the implication about what happened to me and some members of Conundrum? I propose this morning that we, people of African descent and direct African heritage, let's not leave out the place we came from, the continent of Africa. By the way, thank you so much for Sankofa and for your story from the Akan people. It just so happens that I'm genetically related. And unlike any other people named Teague or Walker, Walker's my mother's folks, I know because of a genetic test. And during this article, Samuel Delaney mourns the fact that he didn't know where in Africa he came from or what people. Technology has so changed things that I can wear this and I'm not misrepresenting. I'm just wearing clothes from home. I propose that if in your future you don't have people of African descent, you don't have people. That you can't go into your future without us, because you haven't gone anywhere else without us. You've accomplished nothing in this country without us. And if you take slavery and the wealth from it out of the equation, you don't have much left in Europe. Amen? Amen. I'll return to that later. Interconnectedness, though, implies that your survival depends on mine. When I was a small child, we black folks were not featured in science fiction. And then Star Trek, not the movies, not the cartoons, not the cable channel series, but the original Star Trek series that I heard Lucille Ball had to be convinced to produce. They dared to put a black woman at the communications desk on the Starship Enterprise, and Nichelle Nichols, God rest your soul, sat there with the other Starfleet officers. I so wanted to tell the tech team to put her picture up, but I didn't get that. But you know who Nichelle Nichols is. She sat there with the other Starfleet officers doing her translation and reporting directly to Captain James T. Kirk. And she was stunning. She was alive and well, and she was not there to clean the Enterprise. When she was featured on the Enterprise, we were barely on television as more than servants and maids. She was not there as a woman of ill repute. Lieutenant Uhura was in the future, and so we made it, at least on television. And in the films, she even returned white-haired and still feisty, still kind of good-looking. And if I'm not mistaken, she was a major in Starfleet with her own ship. And the actor, Miss Nichols, actually worked with NASA to produce more African American and young women in NASA to pursue science and math and our exploration of space. Out of costume, she did that. Back to the Black future. Did you know she was convinced to stay in the role because her lines were so short and so insignificant to her that she was going to leave Star Trek? And a little minister from Georgia told her not to leave, Reverend Martin Luther King, because she thought she needed to do more for the movement. Dr. King said, "You are doing for the movement by staying in the role." When else were we going to see a Black woman in the future on the deck of the ship? So she didn't leave Star Trek. And I know there are fans here and supporters of the Black Panther Marvel universe who knew that when Duncan gets up there, he's going to do a spoiler for both movies. I am not. Because it is the apex of Afrofuturism, as explored in that one little article even. Because they wondered, where are Black people going to express themselves and be involved in the techno future? And then somebody at Marvel took a risk when they said Black films won't sell. All the way to the bank. They took a calculated risk, and we thank God for it. And someone in the office decided that African cultures, because there are hundreds shown in the film, all mashed up together, and it works. It could be the focal point of a superhero that Chadwick Boseman would play and lead many other talented African American and African actors and creatives, and it turned out to be one of their most profitable ventures in an Afrofuturistic setting. I am going to tell you, though, that when the cartoon or the comic book came out in the 60s, they didn't have it quite worked out. And it was the late 60s, and it was called Black Panther. Uh-oh. And the Black Panther Party was becoming more and more famous and more radical. And the comic was suffering from the association, and there were some folks who didn't necessarily want to buy something called Black Panther. And the writers they had didn't know what to do. So it almost failed. And they hired an African American radical. I'm going to call him radical. He probably was just proud of who he was. The character is based on a king and an emissary from an African country called Wakanda. Don't look it up on the map. Please don't do that. And when they hired Christopher Priest to come in and save this comic, he's raising up the king part and the emissary part and his royalty and his line, and that's the roots of what have become the new series. Guess what his white counterparts told him to do with the series? Make it more street. What street? They couldn't fictionalize a successful, techno-advanced, Afrocentric superhero, make it more street. Oh, I could preach for a couple of hours, Don. I'm not. I promise I'm not. But I'm going to, at some point, tell you who came up with some of the crap that's going on in hip hop, and they don't look like me. We might have to be planting some sugar cane in some of our corn. I appreciate our financially winning and award-winning Black Panther films because we're not only in the future, but we're leading it. We of African descent are respected in the series. And if we're to take Sonia's story to heart, we must also look back on a true past, not a mythologized past, not a mythical one, and decide that Wakanda exists because we exist. The intelligence of Wakanda is not make-believe. It's the same intelligence that says to plant something life-sustaining amidst the crops that you're paid for once a year, by the way. Sonia left that out of her story. They got paid once a year. How many of y'all get paid monthly? And by the 28th, we're wondering. Can you imagine getting a check in January and it's August? That's how sharecroppers had to figure out what to do. And we can use that creativity and that knowledge. Wakanda, even if it's only in fiction. My ancestors survived, and they're holding Wakanda up, and they're holding President Obama up. They're holding Atlanta and Washington, D.C., and all the African-American neighborhoods in Atlanta and Chicago and Dallas and Memphis are being held up by their prayers and their nonfiction dreams. My very presence here in this future of my grandparents who could not have imagined in Bullard, Texas, and Muskogee, Oklahoma, that I would be alive and here dressed like this, a son of a son and a son of their daughter in the deep South at a community called North Druid Hills that's more Jewish than African American. But I was here. And we are proclaiming the fight for liberty still. But this time, liberty for all who have held back by economics, not just by racial bias, liberty that's inclusive of genders that we forgot about when we became colonized by rifles and Bibles. I am here proclaiming the readiness for a liberty that I did not imagine watching Star Trek as a child, but now enjoying in another Star Trek series where the starship is led by a Black woman, Michael Burnham, and her chief science officer is involved romantically with the ship's medic, a Puerto Rican of African descent, and they're both men. Does your vision of where we must go in the future include all of us? Can you see us? So do we have some writers here this morning who can put us on the hill right here in 2823 in the diverse and richness of what we dream about in the Black and brown and indigenous future? Can you see us? And I'll warn you that if you cannot see some of us of color in the future, I'm proposing that none of us, none of the human family will survive. We are so intertwined that our survival, despite the desire not to look back in our American cultural craziness, we have such amnesia. Okay, I'm gonna risk it. I put on my Facebook page that it's January 6th, whether you have voted in your speaker or not. I haven't forgotten. You can play games if you want to. We are coping with a minority that desire to return, not like the Sankofa, with the preciousness of an egg, the preciousness of wonder, the preciousness of creativity, but they want to return to some of the worst embedded in human nature. We ain't going. And they're not talking about far in the future, they're talking about now. They don't realize that that spells destruction for them too. Major Uhura, put in a channel to the UUs of 2023, 22-23. Tell them we see them, we bless them, and we are on our way. Come out.
Our final hymn this morning is perfect for this service. It's by Dr. Issei Barnwell, one of our most famous UU music directors. This is We Are. Please rise in body or in spirit. Come on up. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great vision. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
So much for being here. It's so good to be in person. Oh my God. Our benediction comes from Samuel R. Delaney. The problem isn't to learn to love humanity, but to learn to love those members of it who happen to be at hand. Have a wonderful my birthday.